Are you having difficulty playing Path of Exile? Are there too many buttons and complex mechanics? Are you looking for something that just works, regardless of whether you're a confused and elderly has-been boomer who can't even beat a children's game, or a terminal stage 3 cancer patient with diminished mental faculties? We have just what you need. Actual god gamers who are easily able to do at least 20 push-ups will however need to look elsewhere to satisfy their high skill engagement needs. The Cyclone Boomer 1030 is the perfect choice for players who want greater performance without any of the complexities. Don't let the compact dimensions and maneuverability fool you into thinking the Cyclone Boomer is just another small Cyclone. With its top-of-the-line global physical damage scaling combined with large amounts of increased area effect, the Cyclone Boomer 1030 aims to outshine any competitor. Next, the Boomer Cyclone easily handles a wide variety of map mods to help you tackle almost any project. With the state-of-the-art reflect immunity, multiple layers of health recovery, and no mana costs, the Boomer Cyclone is up to any task. And that's not all. Up front, the Boomer Cyclone has a variety of complete immunities, including but not limited to stuns, bleeds, chills, shocks, ignites, and more, for that smooth experience free of all worries. When operating your Cyclone Boomer, you'll enjoy the ergonomic layout of the controls. Everything is positioned at your fingertips for effortless operation. That includes controls for the 540 RPM instant cast Enduring Cry and the powerful Ancestral Warchief Totem, which are standard on the Cyclone Boomer 1030. In total, the Cyclone Boomer delivers the perfect balance of comfort, convenience, and capability. You'll be amazed by how a little more physical damage and a larger AoE give the Cyclone Boomer big advantages over other smaller competitors. Yay! So this is a little overview of the Slayer Cyclone I've been playing in this league, to almost level 100 now. There isn't really anything really innovative in here, so I'll try to make it pretty quick. But I felt like I had to put something down, since it's probably going to be the first character I get to level 100. And it was initially going to be a lot more detailed, but then I spent forever making that dumbass intro, so now the guide will have to suffer for that. So, the entire concept of the build is to take advantage of the Crusader Explodey chest that's never been more easily accessible than in this league, and then scale the explosions up, both in damage and the size of the AoE, using 2 sets of cluster jewels and the Slayer Ascendancy, which is great, since the Cyclone itself will scale from both of those as well, giving us big explosions and big cyclones without losing any single target boss damage. The medium cluster jewels are what really opens up this possibility. As you can see if you search the passive tree, that the global increases to area of effect aren't that common, and the biggest ones are like way up in the caster area somewhere. So getting 4 area damage cluster jewels gives us easy access to, at minimum, 80%, I think, increased area of effect, and even more than that, depending on which notables you choose to take. They're all very good, but I choose to go with the towering threat on all of my mediums, which gives 8% life each and 10% increased AoE, which gives us 32% increased life from the cluster wheels, and then 4 small jewel sockets along with them, making the build surprisingly tanky while still having really good AoE. As for the large clusters, that's where we get most of the scaling for the corpse explosion damage. With the setup I went with, that's 144% increased global physical damage, which again is a stat that's in very short supply on the standard passive tree. Combine that with the 70% increased global area damage from the medium clusters, and now our explosions are being increased by 234%, before any of our more multipliers come into play. At this point, the explosions are big enough in size and dealing enough damage that once a single monster pops, the explosion will chain kill any blobs of monsters, and with enough density, entire screens just blow up sometimes. This feels especially nice in Blight encounters, for example, where entire conga lines just vanish regardless of how long it is. Getting the build up and running is relatively cheap, considering it's a two-handed melee build with Crusader Explodey chest. But you know, it's Harvest League. But being cheap to start with and having great possibility for min-maxing, however, is something I enjoy very much in any build, and this one offers exactly that, with most of the big money sinks later on being purely for boosting your single target boss damage, with the cluster jewels and chest taking care of all of the clear without any further investment.
My spirit is spent.
I've been playing this build with incremental improvements, and most of the gear that I'm running at the moment is self-crafted to a point, with some purchased bases, making it pretty hard to estimate the cost to get to where I am now. But with only one Exalt spent out of pocket on the weapon at level 80, making Tailwind boots with just some cheap critical strike reforges from Harvest Crafting, and with how cheap a basic eye level 85 Crusader chest is so far into the league, there's really no reason you shouldn't be blasting through maps with even just a couple of Exalts, or even just completely self-crafted. You know, my advice would really be to take advantage of the reforges you get from Harvest Crafting while you farm up the more rare seed crafts. Physical reforges on the Crusader chest will quickly give you a chest with 3 physical modifiers, allowing you to get the Explode mod for just 1 augment physical. All of the cluster jewels I have were made by spamming physical reforges on the large cluster jewels and life reforges on the mediums to try to get the towering threat with something else. This can really save you a lot of money creating the bases before going into further crafting later down the line, or buying whole cluster jewels with perfect notables. Squeezing all of the auras you want into the build is a bit of a challenge, but a lifesaver here is crafting -3 mana costs of channeling skills on all of your jewelry, so that you're able to reserve your entire mana pool for auras, and there are plenty of strong ones for this build. However, in order to fit all of them into the build, an expensive level 4 Enlighten must be used, so until you can afford that, you're going to have to drop something, depending on your current mana situation. Blood and Sand, Herald of Purity, and Pride are all great generic physical damage boosts, and Dread Banner to cap out your Impale chance. Flesh and Stone gives us a good defensive boost while mapping, and a huge damage boost against bosses in Bloodstands. Once you've picked up the Sovereignty Wheel and a level 4 Enlighten, link it up with Pride, Blood and Sand, Herald of Purity, and a Dread Banner, and this will leave you with just enough mana to cast your Enduring Cry. Then you just put Blood Magic with your movement skill and Blood Rage, and you should be good to go. The Slayer Ascendancy is absolutely perfect for this build, with a 50% increased AoE while mapping and multiple different sources of more damage multipliers, including one that affects the corpse explosions. And there's all the convenience that it offers. The Overleech is incredibly strong even without Valpact. It has built-in stun and bleed immunity. It pretty much solves any accuracy issues and comes with some damage reduction on top. Couple that with the ailment immunity that we pick up later, and you're really never going to have anything happen out of the ordinary. Just smooth sailing. With stun and bleed being solved on the Ascendancy, the only thing we have to look at is the elemental ailments. It's not really super popular to go out of your way to get this on softcore, but we're going to level 100, and we don't want any surprise 50% more damage taken or freeze nonsense. So we stretch to the right of the tree, grabbing the thick skin life nodes, which gives us a total of 20% elemental ailment avoidance, along with some valuable dexterity points. Then we throw in one small dodge cluster jewel with Elegant Form, putting us at 50%. After that, it's easy enough to bench craft 25% on both your gloves and your helmet, getting you to the 100%. Meaning you know no more shocks, or freezes, or chills. This does take up 2 suffix slots, making your resistances a little bit harder to cap. But that's not really a big issue in this league. The links for all the skills are pretty straightforward. I'll throw them up here on the screen, and you can go over them in the path of building. But the only thing to really note is the importance of the infused channeling buff. Infused channeling on its own is probably the biggest damage multiplier for Cyclone, once you have the buff up as well. But the defensive bonuses of the physical damage mitigation, plus the fact that the buff is a global physical damage multiplier, meaning that it buffs our corpse explosions, makes it just, the best support skill that we can use. I will admit that the passive tree kind of looks like a joke. Some of the stretchiest melee trees that I've ever made, that's for sure, but it does serve the purpose of getting both ailment immunity and squeezing in all of your auras without needing any sort of specific amulet roll, coupled with an additional expensive level 4 enlighten. As it stands, you can get all of your most important nodes, the Impale chance, the ailment immunity, the cluster nodes, and the reservation at around level 80, with decent life, and after that it's just a matter of filling in more life and damage every single level. Plus the fact that this stretching doesn't cost as many points as it looks in a quick glance, plus it gives us those important intelligence and dexterity nodes that aren't really wasted as much as they might appear to be. As for the gear, none of it is really necessary to get the build running, other than the exploding chest, of course. I'll possibly make another video going over making some of the more useful items, but for now I'd just like to point out that the axe that I'm using was bought for 100 Chaos Orbs at around 550 DPS with life gain on hit on it. Removing that with harvest crafting and bench crafting attack speed plus quality made the weapon good enough to carry me throughout the entire game very easily, and that's definitely something to look out for, items that can be fixed after buying them. Also, since we're using the Call to Arms keystone to make our Enduring Cries instant, just throw Enduring Cry on your left click and hold it down while you're spinning, and it will go off anytime it's off cooldown. All you gotta keep in mind is that it can be a little bit confusing if you accidentally drop the left mouse button and then press it again. Now your character's just walking around, not spinning, but this shouldn't only happen a few hundred times before you get used to not doing that. Well, that's it, I think. I hope the video was helpful to someone, as if there's anyone looking for scuffed guides on basic Cyclone builds over a month into a league. But, thanks for watching. Já, velkomin. Jettu skít. Ég hata þig. Ég hata þig. Ég hata ykkur öll. Halló. Oj bara. Halló, ég er að pröfa hennan mikrofón, sjá hvort hann virki. Láttu mig vera. Láttu mig vera. The Boomer Cyclone gives you the power to do the job right. Boomer 1030 aims to outshine any competitor. And that's not all. Up front, the Boomer Cyclone has a variety of complete immunities, including but not limited to stuns, bleeds, chills. In total, the Cyclone Boomer delivers the perfect balance of comfort, convenience, and capability. You will be amazed by how little more physical damage and In total, the Cyclone Boomer delivers the damage and a larger AoE give the Cyclone Boomer big advantages over his other smaller. In total, the Cyclone Boomer delivers the perfect balance of comfort, convenience, and capability. You'll be amazed by squatting.